What's going on, Diablo fans? Welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to be going over my super high damage Bonespear Necro that I'm currently running here in PD2 Season 2. I'm going to be going over things like cast rate, my entire gear, and the skills that I use. Before we get started, I'd like to mention that if you like these videos and you want to see more, please hit that subscribe button and ring that bell notification to be notified when I drop new videos just like this. Okay, let's get started. So first off, this build is a complete beast when it comes to in-game content. The coolest thing about this build is that the Bonespear and Teeth both stun on hit since they're both magic damage. In Project Diablo 2, Bonespear now adds an additional spear for every 10 base levels with a maximum of 3. And your Teeth spell can cast up to 24 individual teeth. The greatest part of this build is that nothing really is magic immune. So you are basically able to kill almost everything and anything minus declone and ubers. But honestly, I can easily do things like Trev, I can do chaos runs in 2 minutes, I can do any map, you name it. The best part of this is that you don't really need half the gear that I have currently to do it. Between the first 2 weeks, I had gotten this character to around 5,000 damage per Bonespear, which is around 15k damage, and I wasn't using an Annie or a Torch, just PMB skillers, a Lidless, a Worm Skull, some Mage Fist, and a decent Bone Shade. The biggest thing was maxing out my cast rate and keeping my mana regen up, which was fairly easy with my Merc, only having to use Insight, which leads me into some of the challenges with this build. And honestly, there isn't many. So for this build to be super effective, you want to maintain a max cast rate at all times. But the mana cost and the lack of not having skills like Warmth or a lot of viable options for early on mana regen, you can easily find yourself running out of mana, and it can be somewhat annoying. So next, let's bring in our gear. So starting with my weapon, I'm using a Bone Shade that I corrupted for +1 all skills and boxed for 1 open socket. For my offhand, I went with a Lidless. As you can tell, I corrupted this one with +1 all skills and boxed it for 2 open sockets. Next, for my armor, I'm using a Viper Magi. Again, with the +1 all skill corrupt, the FCR, and the all res, and I did box it for 2 sockets. For the helm, you can either go with a +3 Shaco, or in this case, I went with a Steel Shade with the +1 to all skill corrupt. For my gloves, I went with the Mage Fist. I really needed the FCR and the mana regen. For rings, early on you want to use like the standard 10 FCR rings, maybe some with some all res or mana. But in this case, I'm using the Stone of Jordan just because it's got the +1 to all skills and the increased maximum mana. Now for my belt, the Arachnids for the +1 to all skills, the FCR, and maximum mana. And last, for my boots, you want to go with the Marowaks for the CBF and the mana regen. Now for an Ami, I corrupted FCR on a +3 poison and bone magic Ami. But honestly, I'm going to be spending my money on a +3 Maras for the all res since I'm over my max FCR breakpoint. I do have a 5/5 CTA and a crafted offhand just there to help with buffs. So starting off with my Annihilus Charm, this is a 58, 17, 19 and a 38, 19, 19 Torch. With PMB skillers with life, FHR, some strength, and the rest are just plain. For your small charms, really you want to aim for all res or some sort of resistance charms. Now with my stat points, I'm really not going to go into too much here. It's pretty basic. You just have to have enough strength to put your gear on, and then the rest is put into vitality. Alright, so what I did on the skill tree here is I just maxed out Teeth, Bone Spear, and Bone Spirit. Since these are your main damage output and they're all synergies, this is what you want to do first. This is optional, but it is always nice to have for group play to possibly put 1 hard point into amp damage. And last, this can be altered for an individual's liking, but I like to max out Clay Golem and Golem Mastery while putting 1 hard point into blood, iron, and fire golem, and 1 hard point into blood warp for the mobility. Just getting my clay golems up to about 4,700 damage per golem. For my merc, I prefer the insight for the weapon while solo, or I tend to swap it out for an infinity for group play, but honestly, I still probably stay with the insight just for the mana regen, considering most of my mana per kill procs only proc if I last hit it, and in group play, that's not always the case. For the merc armor, you want to use an Eth Sacred Fortitude here for the max defense and the ED, as well as the all res, while also using an Andy's helm for the 50 IES and high strength roll to help meet the fortitude requirements. For gloves, you really want to use the Drax here for the highest possible life per kill and life per hit, as well as the 20 IES. Now for the belt, you want to go for the Nosferatos here, again for the 20 IES. Getting your merc to that 90 IES breakpoint is super important for damage output, and Goblin Toes for ED and Crushing Blow. With this guide, you are easily going to crush it with this build. I know it seems to be like a lot of my gear is super GG, and honestly it is, but I wouldn't have found it if it wasn't so easy to run maps and do chaos as well as other farming locations. But anyways guys, that wraps up this video. If you guys didn't know, I do stream it live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on Twitch, where we do a lot of community games and giveaways. What up guys? Gorgadget, what up guys?
Did you say you like Dooms?
You're a troll, dude. Yeah, what's up?